strings attached. Should we keep it like that?
We're gonna have some fun this morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. And what a good morning it is. Let me tell you right now, I am feeling it. I am feeling great. I am feeling good. I am feeling right. Pardon me. That's how you know the stubbornness doesn't want to go and it doesn't want to leave. So, let's jump into it. Let's jump into it. Let's start talking. I had everything going. If you guys are wondering, Drew, sometimes you're looking in the wrong direction or you're doing all this other stuff. Well, I do stuff. For a majority of reasons, I do it. Why do I do it? I do it. But let's have a good morning. It has been an eventful morning, has been an eventful day, okay? And I'm going to tell you, I think for Marvel fans, and I decided to do a Marvelous Cup. I know I haven't done an episode of a Marvelous Cup in a long time. I started it a little bit ago when I was doing Loki, and now I'm kind of like in the mood to bring it back. I've been kind of reignited to do all this stuff, and I'm like super hyped, super energized, and super ready to go. So first and foremost, it's a Wednesday. We're making it through the day. You guys are halfway through this week on a week that has felt like, wow, it just feels like it keeps going. I wish I could tell you that it slows down, but it doesn't. Absolutely delicious. That came out pretty good today. I'm kind of proud of myself. And I know it was a surprise. Typically, I would tell you guys, I said I was going to do it on Monday, Shang Chi. But, so we're going to jump into a couple things just right away off the gate. Shang Chi, if you're a Marvel fan and you haven't seen this movie, and I understand why, some of us got a little bit spoiled with Black Widow, and I know that there's huge controversy behind that, especially, when it comes to profit and all that good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and give that one a pass. But when you watch Shang-Chi, now this was a phenomenal movie. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Let me just make sure I got this all right. Yeah, we're good. So when you're watching Shang-Chi, I wasn't sure what to expect from it. Now, I'm pretty good with my Marvel characters, to be fair. Like, I know Iron Fist, Luke Cage, everything like that. I am familiar with these characters. But this was my first time really watching Shang-Chi, who, in my opinion, is a very, very different hero, right? He's not the typical hero that I guess you could say that's really, really huge. He's not your Spider-Man. He's not your Iron Man. So they really did grab a character that was like in the Marvel universe and really shine light on it. And then when you guys are watching the Marvel premiere that happened this week with all the other characters that they're introducing, She-Hulk, you saw Morbius. All these things are happening in Marvel, and I gotta say that it's pretty incredible. But the focus today is going to be on two things that have happened, and maybe a third. But the third we're going to kind of see what happened with. So, Marvel's Shang-Chi. This was a beautiful film. And I mean, from start to finish, this was a beautiful film. If you haven't watched it, just as a movie, it delivers. The moment it begins, you're like, okay, hold up. Hold on, let me fix one thing. A little bit distracting. But I was like, this is awesome. This is awesome. This man is sitting over here living a common life, playing it all out like it's all good. And then all of a sudden you see the fight scene. Spoiler alert, you see the fight scene on the bus. And like for a second you get lost as if you're watching like Speed. And that's a throwback movie for those who don't know. But you're watching it and you're like, oh my God, this is cool. The fight scenes, the action scenes, everything's all right. And then it wasn't like they kind of hinted at his power. Like they didn't really, he has like some kind of secret thing. No. His father's sitting over here carrying around these rings for over 1,000 years and is just beating people. How are you just beating people down for 1,000 years? You know how frustrated I would be if I knew that there was a guy just beating people for 1,000 years and that I was next on the list? That this man just turns around and just like, no, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to go. I would be upset. I mean, because people had to have known of him. It's like, oh, well, he won this, he won that, he won this, he won that. Jesus Christ. So this man hasn't lost in 1,000 years. But you see the fight, and I think another really epic scene, if you guys haven't seen it, once again, spoiler alert, another really epic scene is that in most Marvel movies, when something happens, you don't see that. What's good, RJ? You don't see that. You don't see the payback. You don't really get to see the payback. So, for example, in Spider-Man, when Uncle Ben gets it, yeah, he gets upset. He goes after him, but he doesn't like take the person out. In Shang Chi, his father was just like, no, no, no. They took out your mother. Point him out. Poured him. He went in there like he owed him last week's lunch money and just started going in and just started boom, 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 started throwing them. And then he just kind of built it in. I was curious, like when I was watching this movie, and I was sitting there watching with my wife, right? And I'm curious, and I'm just like, is Marvel really that far ahead that they're able to tie in things like the Ten Rings and the Mandarin, right? Even when you see like some of the things happening when they kidnapped Tony Stark in the original Iron Man, did they really plan this that far ahead? Because I gotta say, if you did, Marvel, wow, that's amazing. And if you guys aren't sure what I'm talking about or what's going on with it, let me tell you. Backtrack to the original Iron Man. There's a scene where he's held captive and he's put in front of the camera, right? And if you look in the background, from what I understand, you'll see the rings. And those are symbolic for the same rings that you see in Shang Chi. So I'm just kind of like, no, this is pretty big. Now, the other thing is that it's a brother-sister combination. You kind of get that. You get the and this movie, and I really did mean it, like it's beautiful, it's cinematic, it really does capture everything all in one. And it wasn't one of those things where you kind of got bored. You were watching and you're like, this is cool. Some Marvel movies, sometimes they have a dry spell. Let's call it what it is. Sometimes you have a dry spell. But this one was like, so I can understand why people were saying it's a lot like, it's almost like the start with the new Iron Man. It's almost like that. I could see that. I could definitely see it because even then, like seeing Wong and the Abomination, once again, spoiler alert, but seeing these guys fighting in the ring and Wong holding his own, I'm like, dude, this is what it's about. This is a combination. This is growth and development of the characters that I like to see. The ending, I swear I'll say it again, spoiler alert. The ending where he's falling and he's in the water and the water bubbles start going in and like cover his face and start breathing, right? And all of a sudden you see the dragon come out. Like I didn't even expect to truly see it. Right? Because they talk about it, and even then, usually when they do a dragon CGI wise, it gets pretty terrible. Like, let's be honest, we've seen some terrible films where a dragon comes out and you're like, that's just terrible. That's just terrible. This was phenomenal. Dragon came out, started, and as I'm sitting there watching the movie, I'm like, shouldn't the dragon be doing more? Like, shouldn't he be eating more of these creatures coming out? And next thing you know, dragon starts eating all these creatures coming out. And I'm like, okay, the common sense factor is there. I give you credit for the common sense factor. So even that moment where the good guys are fighting the bad guys, and the good guys are like, no, 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 let me break this down. Pardon me. Sorry, guys. Where the good guys are fighting the bad guys, and they're like, no, 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 we need to join together, because if we don't join together, these things are going to take us all out. And they're like, we don't believe you. We're going to do this ourselves. 10 rings, blah. And all of a sudden you see that one person's soul gets taken, and they're just kind of like, hold up. They're telling the truth. What's going on, Jose? And they're like, hold up. They're telling the truth. Let's go grab what they're using, which is hot because it's dragon scales. So it was, like I said, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I'm probably gonna watch it multiple times, much like I did with Winter Soldier. But we're not going to jump into that because you guys know that that has been a heated debate between myself and my wife recently. She doesn't believe that it's as top rated as it should be. But we're going to move on because today is not about Winter Soldier. I could literally probably go into hours of talking about why this movie is number one in the Marvel Universe. Even to this day, if you don't count out group movies, as an individual film. But we're not doing that. We're not doing that. The next one that I wanted to talk about is what we're here to talk about today. Spider-Man, No Way Home. That trailer. Take a second. Everybody who has seen that trailer, take a second. Hold up. That trailer gives me chills. Goosebumps. Full goosebumps. I would have never thought that they would ever pull out a live action Spideyverse. Would have never thought it. Ever, period. No way we're going to see it. No way you get Andrew Garfield. No way you turn around and get Tom Holland. No way you get Toby and put them all together and have them don the Spider-Man suit and fight the villains, the Sinister Six, for those people who aren't familiar in comic books, and you see these villains all fighting, and these are all, and Doc Ock said it right. He's like, these are all people you've beaten and that are coming for you. They don't know that you're not that Spider-Man. They just see Spider-Man. I'm excited. Like I am truly, and I'm not even a huge Spider-Man fan, and I know that's going to be an issue. My one cousin Freddie, he's just going to come get me for that one. But I'm not a huge Spider-Man. I'm definitely a Captain fan. But this was phenomenal. And even seeing Doctor Strange and the witty conversation between him and MJ, where MJ's like, hey, I know a couple magic words too. Like, please. And you look at Doctor Strange and you're like, that's some Doctor Strange type play. So you really have to turn around and like you're watching Spider-Man and even watching the villains, watching Sandman, hearing William Dafoe again as Green Goblin, seeing Dr. Ock again, even Jamie Foxx. I'm like, wow, wow. And I do believe that in that scene where they show him reaching for MJ, I don't believe he's gonna catch her. I think when they show that scene dropping, that's gonna be where what's it called? Where I'm gonna say Toby comes in. I'm gonna bank that Toby saves MJ. That's what I'm gonna bank. And we all know the crazy thing is that we have a lot of surprises lined up for that. Let's give another roar. The fact that they tied in a Netflix series, a former Netflix series, Daredevil, into the universe. The fact that they tied that into the universe. The fact that they showed him and said, don't speak anymore. And you're like, oh my God, it's Daredevil. This is where he's been. They didn't waste the character. Usually they will recast him. And they say, well, we're sorry this happens. I thought that there was no recast. So that right there kind of gets me thinking even more what could happen next in Marvel. It just gets me thinking even more because if you think about it, it's like if they're recasting Daredevil, are we going to see the return of the Kingpin? You got to remember that this is now a different universe that they're in. So are we going to see that? So, I mean, listen, I know that it's a lot of excitement. And shout out to everybody who joined the chat, everybody who wants to leave a comment, everything like that. I definitely appreciate it. But the trailer definitely has taken my breath away for a bit because I am just listen, it's different for a lot of us. And I'm going to give you guys, all the Tom Holland fans who grew up with Tom Holland as your Spider-Man, as the only Spider-Man that you really knew, right? For us, Spider-Man, for me anyway, Spider-Man was Tobey, and seeing him swing and up and away web and doing this was Tobey. Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, even Dancing Tobey. Yes, we dealt with that. Even Dancing Tobey, where Venom came from a rock and landed in somebody's backpack, and we don't like to talk too much about Spider-Man 3, but let's call it happened. Even Dancing Tobey's back. And Andrew Garfield, I liked him. He had 2 movies. I don't think he was as crazy impactful. Like Tom Holland really captured it. And I'm gonna say, I know Tobey fans, just hear me out. I think the real reason why Tom Holland really kind of got it was because he is truly younger than all the rest of the Avengers. So when he says those things like, hey, have you ever seen that really, really old film like Aliens and da da da, you're looking at him like, I'm going to punch you in the face because it's not that old. Are you trying to say like, but he makes those comments and he has this innocence about Spider-Man that's like he has snarky, and you can see that he's trying to do his best. So really watching all this together, listen, I won't front. I'm going to do my best to buy 5 tickets on the 29th of November. I'm going to do my best to buy 5 tickets to a Thursday early premiere to go sit down and right before eat some roasted duck. That's right, roast duck. I don't care. Go have some roast duck with the sauce. Go to iPick. Sit down, watch the whole row, have a nice dinner, and then sit back and watch an amazing film. And typically when you watch something like this, you have your hopes up, and you're like, man, this might suck. Like Batman versus Superman, right? You have your hopes up, but they were too big already. You couldn't. The whole thing. We're gonna leave that one alone. But then you turn around and you watch this, and you're like, this is giving me chills. And I don't think we're gonna get as much screen time as we would like from the other Spider-Mans. I don't think so. But because it's really about Tom Holland at the end of the day. And let's face it, the number one thing that we want to see at the end of this is what's going to be huge, and we know it's coming. We know that it's going to happen, right? Venom and Spider-Man. We know that is going to happen. That is not going to happen now, but we know that's on the way. The fact that Morbius has his own thing, we know that's on the way. So, I mean, listen, it's... For Marvel fans, I truly am bringing back a Marvelous Cup. Just so I could discuss with all my fellow Marvel heads, with all my fellow comic book heads, and just so I could have these conversations with people, because I love having these conversations, especially when you know that, you're a comic book fan. If you know the characters, what they do in the universe, and the difference between what happens in the comic books and what happens in the movies. And you could kind of see what's happening. Like, before Infinity War, I warned my kids that everybody was going to die. Like, I was like, hey, we're going to watch this movie. Just please note, everybody's going to die. I mean, not everybody died, but everybody died. And they're like, they wouldn't do that. And I'm like, oh, the tears started falling. Spider-Man faded away. Everybody starts crying. Bucky disappears. And then you turn around, you're like, wow. Then they come back and it's all astonishing. So this is that excitement that Marvel brings. The last thing that I wanted to close on is the return of Xmen, the animated series from '97. Marvel fans, the generation that used to watch Spider-Man, Xmen, and saw the animated crossover. This is huge. Xmen, The moment that beat started hitting, I tell you right now, it all went down. Oh, it was a wrap. It was a wrap. And the fact that they're bringing it back with the original voice actors, and I know that sometimes it's very difficult to recapture the magic of something. So you have a task. You have a task. It's very difficult to recapture the magic, but you recapture that magic. I just can't wait for that music to come back. When you're sitting over there and they premiere it, and all you hear is and everything starts amping up, and you're like and everybody just it's crazy. Just listen. That cartoon series is just should be overly super appreciated and should be loved worldwide. I don't even. It was phenomenal. You had all these different characters. They didn't have to do really huge backstories. They gave you a few. The question is, where are they choosing to pick up the series from? Are they choosing to pick it up where Professor X disappeared? Are we really going to have to rewatch that last series, the last season of X-Men? Because let's be honest, guys, that last season in the animated series where the voice actors changed, Gambit wasn't Gambit, and you're kind of like, no. And you're just watching, you're like, I feel like you guys, I feel like you're just filling in episodes. You have to sit back and be like, oh my God. Is that really where we're taking off? If we take off at the end of season 2, I'm okay. We could pretend season 3 didn't happen, much like Spider-Man 3. Sorry, Toby. Let's be honest. 1 and 2 was really good. 3, it was like watching a Footloose movie. There was more dancing scenes in Spider-Man 3. In fact, that's how we started judging whether or not the Marvel movies were going to be good. Whether or not there was a dancing scene inside of it. And I'm going to give you a few examples. Movies that immediately made me nervous the moment I saw a dancing scene. The moment I saw one. Iron Man 3. I think in Iron Man 3, the opening scene is him dancing. And it's considered a Christmas film. But you're sitting over here and you're watching Iron Man 3 and you're like, is he dancing? Are we watching Robert Downey dance? And you have to accept that that's a thing. And from there on, I was like, I don't know about this movie anymore. He's dancing. It's questionable. Oh, watch the uproar. Fantastic Four, Rise of the Surfer. Okay? When Reed Richards is in the club and he starts dancing. Guardians of the Galaxy. When they open up and this man was dancing, I don't know. Some people might think, no, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I could turn around. That's going to be like, I wonder if Eternals has a dance scene. Now, I haven't heard the best things about Eternal. I haven't watched it, so I'm not going to knock it until I watch it. Because people could be harsh. If you're going by somebody else's opinion, don't go by somebody else's opinion. Go by your own. Go by your own opinion. Eternals, I'm going to give it a fair shot. I knew Eternals was going to be a stretch because you have to sit over here and introduce all these characters in one short film. And of course, you have to explain who they are, where they were during the snap, what happened. But I didn't think it was going to go over well. Much like that other show that they had, that TV series. The Inhumans, just like the Inhumans. As a movie, it probably would have done pretty well. I think Inhumans as a film, if they would have knocked it out in an hour and 20 minutes, people would have watched it. Did it need a sequel? Mm-mm. Could they have been making appearances throughout the Marvel Universe? Other than that, let's call it, we didn't need it. Which then leads, so like I said, a huge Marvel week. So to everybody who jumped in and joined and watched today and listened, thank you for checking me out first and foremost. You guys could definitely check me out on YouTube. We're up there, ANJ Media. This is, of course, where we're recording it. And A Marvelous Cup. I'm bringing it back for you. I mean, yes, you're still going to have coffee, life, and a little advice. But the Marvel side of me needs its own facet, its own string of things that we're working on. And with that being said, you guys have a great day. Have an amazing Wednesday. To everybody jumping in and joining Podcasters of New Jersey, tonight we do have the meeting, the join, the link up. You guys could check it out in the group. It'd be a great place to be able to network, to pass some creative ideas. So definitely big shout out to Podcasters of New Jersey. Special shout out to Denise Duran. Shout out to Ann, to everybody who put the thing together. It's been phenomenal. I will be a part of that along with my wife. You guys be good. Have a great day.
Can we keep it like that? No strings attached. Can we keep it like that?